Thank you. Now we'll go to the last session. Just wait for a minute. We will start in a few minutes.
A very good evening to everyone. Yes, I am audible. Of course,
Yes, sir. Good
it's
evening.
been a remarkable day. It's been a splendidly remarkable day. I do not know about you, but as for me, it's a red letter day in my academic life on seeing so many great minds and intellectual people coming together. And I'm really, very happy. For our next session, I would like to invite Dr. S. Priyadarshini from KCS Kasinadar College. I would like to give a very brief introduction. I won't without further ado, let's move on to the session. But I would like to give a really brief introduction because it wouldn't do justice if I don't tell about this great person that I know for some few years. Dr. S. Priyadarshini is at present working as an English professor in KCS Kasinada College. She had been previously serving in Soke Ikeda College in Ambatu, and she has received her prestigious degree of doctorate from the great university, Madras University. And apart from teaching, she had been often called to give guest lecturers in many institutions. She has been observed as a language expert and also a motivational speaker. We are very much happy to have you here, ma'am. I welcome Dr. S. Priyadarshini to take over the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, both, sir, for the brief introduction. First and foremost, before getting into the session, I would like to thank the management, principal, and Department of English and the faculty for inviting me for this international seminar. And I'm so happy to chair the session. And I know the session is about to start at 5:30, but already it has been a delay of half an hour. Before delaying it further, I would like to invite the first person and just a general introduction for the presenters. If you stick on to 5 to 10 minutes, maximum we can go up to 12 minutes, 10 minutes your presentation, and couple of minutes for question. If you stick on to this 10 minutes, it would be really great so that we will have enough time for everyone to present their papers. First and foremost, I invite Kajal Hodo, who is a research scholar, Department of History from Azam University, to present her paper on the topic board scripts representation and terracotta temples in
Yes, madam.
Bengal. Please,
Yes,
sir.
yes, madam. Before going to start my presentation, I want to share my screen. Okay.
Please, sir.
Actually, madam, it is not working properly. What is the problem? I don't know.
Is the technical fault is from your side or from here, sir, from the our side, sir?
I don't know. Actually, it is not working. It is not sharing.
If
Okay.
you are facing some technical difficulties, Professor, you
Yes.
can kindly carry on with your presentation. We'll be very happy to hear from you.
Okay. Okay. A very good afternoon. Good evening. Okay. All of you, and thank you everyone for organizing such a wonderful conference. Okay. Again, my research paper title is the boat representations, no, boats and ships representations on terracotta temples in Bengal, 16th to 19th century CE, with special reference to Howrah. Myself, Kajal Poddar, PhD Research Scholar, Department of History, Assam University, Silchar. From the Harappan period to the present day, India has had a continuous maritime history and heritage also. Except Delose, no one else attempt to assemble the facts of boards and board representations on Bengal terracotta art. Archaeological excavations and investigations in India have yielded ancient boats and ships which have been portrayed in a variety of art forms, including terracotta models, boat reliefs on seals and plaques, paintings on pots, and depicting depictions of boats on coins also. From the 16th to 19th century, Bengal has a long tradition of terracotta temple building and material heritage. These research attempt to investigate the specifics of boats and ships from the temples in Bengal, especially the Howrah area during this historical period. Bengal encompasses modern day West Bengal, Bangladesh, and some areas of Bihar, Jharkhand, Assam, and Tripura that speak Bengali. According to the Arsi Mozumdar, has been the emergence of the radically different form of temple architecture. Bengal's religious architecture developed in three stages that says David Magicians in his books Origin and Development of Temples. In three stages, he mentioned first is the development of ancient temples till the 12th to 12 still the 12th century CE, later in the western parts. The advent of Islamic architecture 12 to 16th no, so 40, sorry 14 to 16th centuries CE, and later part the emergence of terracotta temples, that means 16th to 19th century. Okay, the Bengal is abundant with architecturally significant terracotta temples dedicated to different Brahmanical duties such as the Shiva, Kali, Krishna, Vasudeva, Durga, and other duties that may be founded throughout the West Bengal and Bangladesh also. These temples comes in a variety of size and structural configurations, and they may be classified into many main types based on their styles, informations, and formations and constructions. On the basis of these things, they may divide it into various subtypes. Them Ek Bangla or Dochala, Jor Bangla, Char Chala, Art Chala, Bar Chala, like, and also Ratno type, Ek Ratno, Pancharatna, Navaratna, Tredasha Ratna, Saptadasha Ratna, Ekabinshati Ratna, and Panchavikshanti Ratna. And other types like Rashamancha, Dalmancha, Tulsimancha, Dalan, like that. Okay. The brand sorry, brand brand bricks are the primary building materials in the revolutionary new temple structures that emerged between the 16th to 19th century, according to David McIshons. Terracotta panels were utilized to embellish the temple's surface. Throughout the centuries that follow, a unique Bengali temple construction culture emerged, which was notably visible in literature and architecture. The temples continued to indigenous heritage of Bengal. The emergence of these temples was driven by the Vaishnava movement, which focuses on the Radhakrishna religious. The primary appraisal and diversity in terracotta temples began under the patronage of the Malla kings of Vishnupur, and the style extended to other regions of Bengal from there. Bengali terracotta architecture has evolved its uniqueness by relying on the indigenous building materials and construction methods. Bricks has traditionally been a prominent structural materials in Deltic Bengal alluvial soil. They were made using brown bricks and according to their basic purpose of the early temples, and afterwards embellishment with terracotta ornaments in spots. Because clay is inexpensive and plentiful, it was widely recognized as the most frequent and popular medium of artistic expression in Bengal, and terracotta art evolved into a significant craft The whole Bengal is a network of dormant rivers and streams with the alluvial plains. The geographical qualities of soil, especially its fineness, adhesive quality, and to a lesser extent, sandy nature, adite Bengali artisans. The many methods employed for various purposes and types of structures made the well and wall and bricks hard and durable, as well as suited for incising floral and geometrical motifs, as well as human animal forms and boats and ships. The term terracotta refers to fairy clay and literally means black art. The terracotta figurines refers to as a clay figurines in the Encyclopedia of Indian Archaeology and techniques details of how the clay is formed as also included. The terracotta has been used as a clay and a key medium of expression for various cultural elements from prehistoric times. Terracotta was widely used as a cladding materials for architectural surface in Bengal's humid environment because of its excellent weather in resistance. Even before it is burned, terracotta is a flexible substance that can be molded into any shape. This particular mud combination was created by the craftsmen themselves, ensuring that the size and color of the items did not alter after baking at a high temperature. Now I'm going to my area, that means Howrah. Howrah is a district of West Bengal, and there the terracotta on the front of several temples are among Howrah's most valuable artifacts. We cannot trace the growth and deterioration of this art in these regions without a careful investigation of the architectural style of these temples, their antiquity and the terracotta adornment proudly shown by them. The following reports of Howrah terracotta temples are based on significant on the spot research. The terracotta plaques and panels on the walls of these temples, particularly depictions of boats and ships in precise details. A detailed table indicating village. I'm giving a table, but I'm extremely sorry. I cannot share my screen. And I have uh, okay, methodology. Both the primary and secondary data, and the secondary data help me to select the problem, reviews, and variable, and so on. The sources of primary data collected from the selected area, that means from Howrah and all. The area of study, the present study is carried out in the Howrah, and it is the district of West Bengal. Methodology, the interview schedule for the collection of primary data, the collected photos and make diagrams of temples as well as panels depicting boats and ships. Okay, and I have make a list depicting the boats, and I have collected data that I have visited in this area, that means districts. I have visited approximately 50 temples, and out of 50 temples, I have go to the 10 temples where the depiction of boats, and I have made this table. And in these tables, I have mentioned the name of districts, locality or block, and name of the temples, and type, that means Baro Chala, Art Chala, like that, and date and patronage who made this, who built these temples, and number of panels, number of boats, number of panels where the depiction of boats, and number of boats on the basis of the panels, and representations of boat and ships. First of all, I'm going to share the name of temple is Damodar Temple. It is situated in Rautara Jhaura, Jikira, in the block of Amta district, West Bengal. District Howrah, and it was built by royal family in 1762. And there we found 5 panels where the boat is represented. There are 5 boats, among them 4 boats are on the base panels of the left eastern side column, and another one is on the base panel of the right eastern side column. Uh, 4 boats are showing on the base panels of the temple's right hand side arch column. The upper portion is embellished with the row of Krishna Lila, while in the center, gopis are carrying Yoda in a river boat and delivering it to Lord Krishna, who is sitting under a tree. On the other hand, panels on the lower part represent triple river boats in a horizontal row, with a long river boat carrying two notable women seated on a planquin and 3 men standing with swords. All of the boats are beautifully ornamented vertically and horizontally, and they are driven by a watch. And river boats are often used for racing. This type of boats also using uh, for the purpose of racing. And arts column on the left hand side, base friezes depict 3 European ships, and two of which are accused nearly settled, and they are transported both men and women in the same space. Panels in the upper sections portrayed gopis, radhas, and ladies standing in a vertical row honoring Lord Krishna. I'm going to another temple, that is Sitarama temple at Jhikra Amta block in Hora district. It was also founded by Kester Kayat Ghosh family in 17th century CE. And in this temple, we have found 4 panels and with 4 boards. That means every panel has 1 board. There are 4 boards. Among them, 2 boards are on the base panel of the eastern corner, and the other 2 boards are on the base panel of the southern sides of the temple. And I'm going to another temple, that is Damodarji temple. It is also situated in a Singrajol Jhikira, that means Amta block in Howrah. It was also built by Mandal family, local Mandal family in 1769. In these temples, we have found 4 panels and 5 boards. That means one panel has 2 boards, including 4 panels. We have 5. We have found 5 boards. There are 5 boards. Among them, 3 boards are on the base panels at the middle of the eastern sides column, and 1 board in on the middle arch panels, and other is on the base panel of the eastern side middle panels. And now another temple, that is Syam Sundar temple. It is also situated in a Jhikira Amta block in Hooghly. Hooghly, Howrah. And it is also built by Mollik family, local Mollik family in 1691. There also we found 6 panels and 6 boards. That means every panel has a single board. There are 6 boards. Among them, there 3 boards are on the base panels at the middle left of the southern front side, and the other 3 boards are on the base of at the middle right of the southern front side of the temple. And these boats, these boating scenes of European armed navals, fleets and warships carrying the European pirates are carved in the base pieces of the arch panels of the temples. Among these depictions, there exist an extremely interesting representations of triple war boats, which are built like other racing and rowing skips, and vertically and horizontally well decorated on the base pieces of the right side of the front arch columns. The boat in front has 3 European armed forces. On the other boat in the back, triple European pirates are standing with Europeans. On the other hand, the three European warships have been placed on the base pieces of the left arch columns of the temple. The broken and unclear warships are decorated with a chain of warrior engaged in the vigorous action and carrying European pirates. Above all, the warship representing panels are the swamps in the horizontal rows. Now, another temple, that is Damodar temple. It is
Sir,
situated in
sir, just a
Amravati.
minute, just a minute.
Huh,
Sorry to
huh.
interrupt. As we have fixed the time for 10 minutes, just click on to the timing. So, like, you can come to a conclusion and you can just say, what is your find outs.
Oh. In conclusion, I can say that actually I have visited in the district of Haura, and I have visited approximately 50 temples, and out of 50 temples I got 10 temples where depictions of boats, and this present paper also the representation of boats and ships, and in I will find out the relevance of the boats in the present day and in the contemporary society.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Hmm.
First and the foremost, I would like to appreciate Mr. Kajal Poda for visiting those temples and try to bring present this paper on the history of
Hmm.
boards and what is the culture it tries to represent, especially when in your paper you spoke about the terracotta culture, especially from how it represents our culture, especially in the temples, the paintings, how it
Yes, yes,
represented
madam.
our country and its culture through its painting, and
Yes, yes,
especially the culture of our country. Especially you have referred to the Damodar temple, Sitaram temple,
yes, yes,
and so
madam.
on, and you have
Hmm.
visited it. And we are really sorry for the technical issues, maybe from your side or from our side. We couldn't see
Hmm.
those pictures. It would have been really great if we were about to see those pics, because it's a very rare thing. And your paper just in that you explained about how it is really. The boat and the ships played a very vital role uh, in our transport history, and how it also represented our
Yes, madam. Yes,
age of
madam.
our
Hmm.
time. That's very good.
Hmm. Hmm.
And before going into the question session, is there any audience who would like to pose any questions? Audience? Okay. I'll pose a question to Mr. Kajal Poda. I
Yes,
think
madam.
you spoke about these terracotta and its carvings in the temple, isn't it? It is representing our culture and so on. Do you think even in the present day, it can be protected and it can be saved, because it's our history, right? Do you think is
Yeah.
there any ways that we can that we can save it, and we can save it of a future, especially for the future generation?
Or next generation. Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Actually, on the basis of this portrait on the panels of the temples, we'll get the idea about these contemporary societies, peoples, and we'll get the idea about the trade contact with others country, and we'll get the pictures of foreigners, that is especially Europeans, English
Yeah, yeah,
pirates,
Europeans, yeah.
and they
Yeah,
were in India, and during the last that means 200 years when we are not freedom. That
yeah.
time they were in India and they rule over India, and that type of picture will get from these depictions, and
Okay.
we'll get the idea of history, idea of this society, and their dresses, their voting styles and voting structure, and all. And during this time, there are also traditional boats also there, and that type of boats reflected on the temples panels also. The artisans were reflected on the panels, and that type of things we will get the idea about the boats transporting systems of India, not only India but India but also Bengal.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. That's a very good
Mm,
explanation. Thank
mm,
you. Yeah.
mm.
Now, let us go to the next presenter, Dr. MP Sabita Madam. Like she's
Yes,
presenting
ma'am.
on the topic factors affecting the writing skills of the Indians, especially the who are the second language learners. Please, ma'am, continue. Start your presentation.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am. In
Today's
today's
presentation,
presentation,
in the
in the
first part,
first part,
I would like to
I'd like to
concentrate
concentrate on.
on, ma'am, the audio is not clear. Can you please adjust? Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Is it audible now, ma'am? Is
Yes,
it
ma'am.
clear?
Yes, ma'am. It's clear, ma'am.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you. In the first part of my presentation, I would like to share how writing is involved in the process of thinking. Also, I would like to express the relationship between thinking and writing. When we talk about writing, it is an active thinking process. Actually, it reflects our thought on paper. So writing reflects thinking as well as thinking reflects our writing. So in a way of improving our writing skill, we need to improve our thinking ability also, because thinking involves and makes us to produce effective writing. So when we try to produce a meaningful content or meaningful composition, we need to select appropriate content. At first, we need to select appropriate content according to the task demands, and also we need to draft meaningful sentences. And also it demands task specific diction, the domain specific diction. And also it is very important and mandatory to maintain coherence and organization to produce the cohesive draft. So in my research, in this paper, I focuses on writing which needs to improve across the curriculum, and also whether the researcher or the student writer, how they have to produce the domain specific writing, whether it is a task or doing a research, whatever it is, it has a domain. So every academic writing is a domain dependence. So we need to regulate our thinking according to the domain or the task demands. So when we regulate our thinking, it automatically helps us to draft cohesive content, right? So these are the things I would like to give as a introduction or a theoretical part of my research. I directly move on to the research part. I like to share. Okay, this this is the research design I have applied in this paper. Actually, 20 classes were conducted to the second language learners, weekly 3 days in a week. It's a 1 hour or 1.5 hour duration according to the task and the student demand. In the classes, the talks were designed to express their own experience, and also it administered in a graded structure from easy to difficult. O- Own experience such as their bus journey, uh, any experience they have, the happiest moment, like that. And regarding rhetoric, we had a description, describing the campus or describing the classroom. Right? Next, we moved on to a cognitive task, the one word topic. The one word topic, such as music, a festival, whatever that is, students find it difficult to focus on a single word. When we assign the task music, at first they found it difficult what to write on music. Then we uh, asked them to think whether you are going to focus on the music directors or the genres or the lyrics, whatever that is. So you have to rely on a particular topic, particular, you have to narrow down. In that way, we help them to think. So the next session, we have given 4 to 5 words. We ask them to use those words to construct a paragraph. So in they have to use the given words, 5 or 7 words. Whether it means a sports, we have given words related to sports. If it is a film, we have given words related to film. By using those words, they can create their own paragraphs or an essay. And the final classes, we have given sentences, some phrases and sentences. They can use them as a beginning or a concluding or anywhere in the sentence, but they have to use the sentence. And they have to create a paragraph. In that way, we have trained them 20 days. It's a 1.5 hour duration. For each writing task, we have given a written corrective feedback for them. In the next day of the class, we make the students to notice their errors and allow them to discuss their errors and what are the improvements they need to improve in their writing process. In the way, we make them to aware of their own errors and help them to correct their errors in the next class. So because the noticing and understanding is very important, according to Smith 1990, what he says is noticing result in intake and also understanding helps them to restructure the system of learning and allow the both ways, allow the learners to store the linguistic information in the learner's internal system. So in the way of we make them internalize the correct structure of the language. What the interesting fact that we could find in that class is this: the participants, all the participants in the class, the 27 participants, they said that this was the first time they were made to think and asked to write on their own. Previous classes, they write essays related to subject, their content areas, like that only. This was the first time they think and write on their own experience. They produce their own text. So this was the interesting element we have found. This is also one of the factors which helps them to understand their own writing. This is the research design. After conducting the research and while conducting the research, we have identified the factors that affects the learning, whether in a negative and a positive way, in both ways. I have categorized those factors. First, the psychological factors. Under the psychological factors, we have found motivation. Some students, who were studied through English medium of instruction, they have intrinsic motivation, which is powerful than extrinsic. They showed more interest in their writing and produced more content. They showed keen observation in their writings also. Here I have quoted the participants 1, 13, 19, and 27. And the other participants, they need both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. We need to push them, we need to motivate them, we need to make them aware of their own knowledge and what they know, what they need to know. That way we help them to find their own knowledge and their own skills. And the next one is anxiety, especially the writing anxiety. Writing anxiety, when we ask them to speak, they can speak. They can speak well, they can speak fluently. But in the case of writing, they have some kind of anxiety. When they have pen on their hands and try to putting their thoughts on paper, they have a writing anxiety. The first, what we have found is a fear of negative evaluation. Actually, we found it from all participants, though they show more interest, I think. But when the first class they start to write, everyone has that kind of anxiety, that fear of negative evaluation. The next one is time prominent anxiety. When we say it's a limited time, in 1 hour class, the first 20 minutes, we ask them to think and analyze about the topic. Then we ask them to make a outline or whatever that is. The important words and all, we help them to write. So only 20 minutes were given to final drafting. So when it's a time prominent, some students said that we are not able to write within a 20 minutes. We need more time to think and uh, express our ideas in writing. So in that way, we have faced these kind of factors. And then linguistic factors, what we have found is the lack of vocabulary knowledge, and also overconfidence of vocabulary knowledge. Also, the student who in the participant one, actually she has a good vocabulary knowledge. The problem what we have found with her is she tried to impose the vocabulary what she has learned, what she has known. So whether she doesn't think of the whether the vocabulary is important or necessary to the topic or the content or the sentence, but she tries to showcase her linguistic competence. So in that way, she faces problem. And then knowledge of discourse. So discourse knowledge is very difficult for them to get. And then mechanics. In the case of one student, we what we found is he uses periods, exclamatory. Nearly in the first class, we have found 37 periods in 1.5 page writing. So for 3 words and all, she uses those kind of mechanics and punctuation errors. And one thing what we found in the regional medium students, especially Tamil medium students, the repeated use of the article the and the preposition with. They have repeatedly used this hinders the meaningful composition. Next, I move on to the educational factors. This is one of the important factors when they were introduced to writing in second language. So, learning to second language is also a different. When they introducing the students to the second language, for them uh, to learn a second language itself, for some students, it's started from third year, and some students writing, especially after sixth standard or seventh standard or something, they said, I remember I start to write um, more pages while I was studying sixth or seventh standard. That way they have shared. It is one of the factors that affects their writing process. And then the physiological factors, what I found that 1 hour class for 20 days, the unpleasant feeling when we uh, administered a task, if they are not able to regulate or find out the content, they feel unpleasant in the class, they feel nervous. Sometimes they get tension and placing their hands in head and moving their head to watch the what their peers were doing, front and back side, all the sides. In that way they were doing the physiological factors, which was some related to the anxiety. And also we found the external factors. They said that when the teachers say I expect more from you, it also creates a kind of anxiety. It negatively impacts us to write more content, meaningful content. That way we overthink and fail to produce the exact content, the cohesive content and all. And also the concern for others perception of their writing ability, they have also faced this problem also. These are the external factors we found in the research. Here I would like to explore the socio-linguistic factors which I want to highlight. The medium of instruction, already I said, students from 15 from Tamil medium and English medium students I have quoted here. To talk about English medium students, they have good vocabulary knowledge. And what the problems I have already mentioned, they try to exhibit their vocabulary knowledge by imposing the diction which was not relevant to the context. And then to talk about the Tamil medium students, at first they find it difficult to generate content relevant to the topic. They do not know how to select the appropriate content if that what the task demands. They write whatever that comes into their mind. In that way, they produce the content. So then we found that what is the problem is the problem in thinking in English. Actually, they think first in their mother tongue, then they translate it into English. So which was the difficult one for them. And also to find out the equivalent words for the Tamil words, they ask us Ma'am, what was the English word for this word? What is the English word for this? In that way, they asked us and discussed with us to talk about gender. In this study, 19 female students and 18 male students were participated. To talk about the gender, we couldn't find any differences. Both of them showed interest and both of them attended the classes. In both ways, their writing and attitude did not show any difference. So after finding out the factors which affects the learners, then we discuss the solutions. What will be the solution to help them overcome the negative factors? Then we help them to apply strategies while writing. So in that way, some strategies we have introduced to them, we help them to apply. Some strategies they automatically apply during the classes in the fifth or sixth classes. In that way, they automatically started to apply without the guidance of the facilitator. We have listed the first cognitive strategies. In the fourth or fifth classes, some students start to outline in their notebook. Uh, in a
Ma'am,
circle.
excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry to disturb you. It's already nearly 20 minutes. Could you just,
Okay, ma'am.
cut
So
it
this is,
short and yeah.
yes, ma'am. This is my last slide.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in
Yeah.
that way, we have categorized cognitive, metacognitive, and socioaffective strategies. We introduced to them, and we find out they have introduced. These data were collected by using the post-study questionnaire. At last, what we have understood from that research, this was the output we have get. This was the conclusion we have made. So writing is a process which starts from motivating to write, which helps them to plan the content. Planning the content helps them to retrieve their relevant ideas, and it helps them to create an outline. Then, after outlining, they started to make a first draft. After draft, they revise and then edit, and they produce the final draft. This is the process. This was students were undergone while writing in this class. This is the result of this research study. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Especially this particular paper in which you focused on how thinking is related with writing and how both the things are interconnected. Especially to produce a meaningful content, a person should
Yeah.
think and then they should write. Especially you spoke about the different tasks and how we can motivate our students because being a teacher, every one of us knows that the most difficult thing that the student would like to do is
Yes.
writing, and especially this post-COVID times, it is even more harder. We all
Yes.
face this difficulty as a teacher, but your research shows that what are the factors involved in it and how we can change the thinking of students, especially, and what are the errors they make, especially they use articles and prepositions or frequently, so on, all this. And you also spoke about the outcome of your research. Very good, ma'am. Just
Yes.
I would like to ask a practical question,
Yes, ma'am.
especially when you are talking about our students or that English, they have learned English as a second language, and whatever the way we motivate and what were the steps we take, but still there is a difficulty in especially making them right. At least we can be a bit successful in making them to speak, but do you think all those researchers really motivate students, and your idea in a few sentences?
Actually, ma'am, now I'm working in the government in a government college. It is actually totally a rural college. In 2 weeks before, also I found one student find it difficult to write a classroom. He
Oh,
said that he forgot the spelling for classroom due to the COVID
yes,
effect.
yes, ma'am. It's a
Then
practical difficulty we
yes,
all are facing as
after
a teacher.
after hearing this, I made him motivate and all the students first make them aware of English, you have ample vocabulary to write, you have. So that for that I help them take a paper and write the vocabulary you remember, because from morning, when we say good morning, bus stand, in classroom, everything in English. We use English vocabulary, but we have ample knowledge. The problem what we have is the students may not know what they know. If we make them consciously raising their awareness of learning. So the first time I ask them to write the vocabulary what they remember. The next time I give a word that is I ask them to write the vocabulary relevant to the word. Then they feel motivated. Ma'am, I'm able to write 60 words, 50 words. In the third class, I ask them to write a paragraph by using the words they remember. So they show more interest. So in the next actually this is the research which I was conducting now. It's a process I'm experimenting this. The nearly 4 or 5 classes only I have conducted here. This was the motivating session I have conducted for making them to write, because asking them to take a pen and write on their own is a very difficult for them. So this is the motivating session I used, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because by enriching their vocabulary, yeah, definitely we can motivate them to write. I think that's a very good thing that you are doing, ma'am. Especially in the rural area, it is even more difficult. They're taking up this
Yes,
task
ma'am.
to do it, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. All the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Next, I would like to invite Mr. Bhagatwa, who's the Assistant Professor, Department of English, Justice Bashir Ahmed Said College for Women, and especially to present on the topic, multicultural perspective is on race, ethnicity, and
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm extremely sorry for this interruption. I would like to, I would like to remind all the participants that they are doing really well. We would really appreciate. It's really great. But however, I sincerely request you to limit the duration of a presentation to the 10 minutes, so that it will enable the others also to present today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Sure. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bahatwa from Department of English, here to present you about the research paper, A Multicultural Perspective on Race, Ethnicity and Identity in the novel Swing Time by Zadie Smith. Introducing the author to you. Zadie Smith is an English novelist, essayist, and a short story writer, a person from Britain, actually, a daughter of Jamaican mother and an English father. She is herself a multicultural and a multiracial person. She treats race, religion, and cultural identity in a unique and authentic way, meaning the facts that she registers seems to be highly authentic, not only in her novels, but also in her short stories and essay collections. Following up, what is multiculturalism? Multiculturalism is a view about culture, races, and ethnicities, especially those of the minority groups who deserve a special acknowledgement of their differences within the dominant political culture. So when there is a society, there is always a dominant culture and a subculture and an ethnoculture. So these are the different cultures. People are there in these different cultures, and that is why the multicultural society exists. Many minority cultural groups have experienced exclusion or denigration of their contribution and identities in the past. So people who belong to the minority group, their identity is being lost. At times, they are also excluded and denigrated. It's like they're marginalized and they're pushed backwards from the dominant society. So multicultural society is where mixed ethnic community area where people cultural traditions exist. It's famously mentioned as cultural mosaic. So it's a multicultural society. People from different community, different area, people seem to be together, and you call it as cultural mosaic. Multiculturalism is a way in which society deals with cultural diversity, both at national and at the community level. So, multiculturalism it's a social construct by the society, but it is also it's something which is called cultural diversity. It's taken up in the national as well as in the community level. Sociologically, multiculturalism assumes that society as a whole benefits from increased diversity through harmonious existence of different cultures. So basically, when the diversity, when the people are from different communities exist, there seems to be we have interaction with different culture. We get to know about different people. It's instead of having a monotonous and a subtle way of living. When you interact with different community, different people, different culture, we get to know we get to understand different cultures in a very unique way. So, what is race, ethnicity, and identity? So, race is a cultural construct. Basically, we have created something which is called as race that groups people together based on preconceived biological similarities. So, it's through biological similarities we dissect people according to racism. So, race is the idea that human species is divided into distinct groups on the basis of inherited physical and behavioral differences. So this is another definition of race where people are differentiated because of the physical appearances and the behaviors that they. Ethnicity is a term that describes shared cultural practices, values, and beliefs of a group. So, one particular group has one particular cultural practice and they belong to that ethnic community. This might include shared language, religion, tradition, and other commonalities. So ethnicity includes the language that they speak, the religion they follow, the tradition, and obviously all other commonalities, something what they have in common that they are called as they belong to that ethnic group. So, ethnicity has been identified as a social group of a person, social group a person belongs to. So, it's a community where the person belongs to and either identifies with or is identified by others as a result of a mix of cultural and other factors, including language, religion, ancestry, physical features traditionally associated with race. So, ethnicity is not just one person, ethnicity is a group of people who belong to a culture, who follow a language, it's also based on ancestry and also associated with race. So, race, ethnicity, identity are interconnected words, interconnected concept as well. Cultural identity refers to identification with or sense of belonging to a particular group based on various cultural categories, including nationality, ethnicity, race, gender, and religion. So, cultural identity is where you belong to one particular culture. Ethnicity is you belong to one community. Race is which race you belong to. Either you're black, you're white, or you're mixed race. And culture is what culture you belong to. Three seem to have a very small mark of differentiation, but all three fall into the same place. So, coming to the novel Swing Time. Swing Time is a novel by British writer Zadie Smith in November 2016. The story takes place in London, New York, West Africa, and it also talks about all three cultures, London culture, New York culture, and West African culture, and focuses on two girls, Tracy and the narrator of the novel. The narrator is unnamed in the novel. So both the girls belong to mixed race group and Tracy is black. The novel explains the concept of racism from childhood of the girls till they become millennials. So the entire novel is like around 500 pages. It talks about the girls from the childhood, the racism that they face and that shaped them towards what they don't want to be, and then till the life of their millennials, till they become millennials. So there are many situations during their dance class where the girls would end up thinking the difference in color and their appearance. So it's only at the dance class where they feel that marginalization exactly happening. So the cultural difference is imbibed in the little minds by the society and by the people of dominant culture. In case of the narrator, her mother would herself be the victim of society's pressure and would end up not explaining the kid about her birth. So multiracial identity is multiracial. It's not about multiculturalism. So multiracial identity is not just a sum of races of one family tree, but also being part of others. It's not just one person. Multiracial does not belong to just one person, but it's actually a kind of a family. It is more complicated than it is articulated. It is a difficult task to raise children in a world that is centered on hate and division. It is far greater challenge to raise a child of a mixed race in a society that is built on inferiority. So many mixed race children have to deal with serious identity issues that follows them even to adulthood, because the child that doesn't know whether he or she is white or black or belong to mixed race. So the mixed race children always have this problem of getting identified in the society from days. So both feminism and anti-racism are forms of identity politics. So the novel is a women writer, and also the characters are also women. So I wanted to bring in a little of feminism here and also talk about the anti-racism concept. So both fail. So both feminism and anti-racism are forms of identity politics. So both fail to be intersectional because they look at one form of discrimination or inequality at a time. So gender inequality or racial inequality. Feminism talks about gender inequality and anti-racism talks about the racial inequality. Feminism marginalizes women of color because it centers white women, and anti-racism marginalizes women of color because it centers the men of color. And I conclude saying, in the final frame of the novel, Tracy, the main character, the protagonist, I could say, is doing what she loves, and she's surrounded by people she loves, and a woman who has been in her own path and has followed it back to abode of her family. In the end, she'll have three children. She'll start living with three children. It is the narrator, whether on the neighboring mattresses or in the neighboring building, who feels herself lost. So there are two girls. Tracy seems to she accepts her blackness and she lives her life, and there is a narrator who feels burdened about others' feeling, who feels lost, relying on the light of others for breaking up the dark of her alienation. She would expect others to break her alienation, but that doesn't happen in the novel. With shifting identities, the narrator seeks, above all, a place where she belongs. She does not fully expose herself, or she tries to hide the fact that she does not know who she is. She was trapped between intersectionality of race, ethnicity, and gender, oppressed by an overbearing mother and a racist society. The narrator has confined herself in existence as a shadow. She feels that she exists only as a shadow in the society. She exists only as a shadow because she finds no external affirmation to herself as a black woman. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a very powerful presentation, especially we all live in a multicultural society today, and how cultural multiculturalism affects each and every person. And also, you spoke about the identity issues and how it connected in the novel. And also, you brought in feminism and anti-racism, and you spoke about how a person who accepts that multiculturalism is about to survive, and it was a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
and
you very much.
especially when you stick on to the timing, that is even more greater. Thank you. You ran fast. I know that. It would have been. I thought, oh, it's my even PhD thesis is on diasporic writers, and I would even love to hear more about that, but because of the time constraint, we couldn't go on for a longer period of
I
time.
still had more slides, but then I deleted it, mom.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Because it was a very good presentation, ma'am. Thank you. Is
Thank
there
you.
any question? Is there any question from the audience? No. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. You have clarified everything in a very perfect manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, mom. Thank you.
Okay, the next presenter, Abhinaya. Abhinaya, ma'am, who's assistant professor, Department of English, Holy Cross Home Science College, Thuthukudi. Ma'am, I would like to invite you and spoke on the your paper.
Thank you so much, ma'am. A warm good evening to one and all present here. I feel really honored to present my paper amidst the interrupts. As far as the time concerned, let me try to put it in a nutshell. Let me introduce my writer first. Espen Kyer is a prolific writer who hails from Nagaland, who currently lives in Norway. Most of our writings reflect realities of Nagaland people. Writing has poignant themes from Nagaland and has managed to have a place for herself in the literary field. Kyle's novel, A Terrible Matriarchy, is set in a patriarchal society. A Terrible Matriarchy begins in the early 60s and concludes at the end of 70s. The story is in mid 60s Nagaland, especially in Kohima, a particular town in Nagaland. The story describes the life of Delano from the age of 5 to 23. The literal translation of this particular word, Delano, means errant girl. When she is 5 years, she is set off to live with her disciplinarian grandmother, Vibanu, who wants to train her up to be a good Naga wife and mother. Lino, the youngest and the only daughter of five siblings, is darling of her parents and brothers. She resents having to leave her home to help her despotic grandmother in her household works, though Lino hates to live with the grandmother. But he has no choice but to obey the wishes of her elders. The plot is set in the colony of Kohima, though the culture is predominantly Chenima culture. There are similarities and affinities with other Naga tribal culture. The story explores the life of Lino, a little girl from her childhood to the adult, and in all the stages, she should have experienced the tortures of her grandmother in a way of patriarchal society. Lino was the youngest child in her family, but she was treated as a slave, more like a slave. Leno's struggle represents a struggle of every woman to find a place for their self in the patriarchal society and in the family. On the other hand, the story projects the realistic picture of every Northeast woman and their lives, which are diminished by the effects of the internal and external wars and highly complicated stigmas. A terrible matriarchy opens with a description of the kitchen as a space where a gender discrimination is terribly visible. The enactment of gendered framework of good behavior upholds the role of food as a marker of gender difference, as rice and meat, a symbol of nourishment, is frequently denied to the girl child. Enu begins her life in a low income household with her parent, but throughout her life, she was supposed to be not allowed to enjoy the wealth of the family. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Please continue. Yeah.
The next important thing Kyle wants to show in this story is the customary view and opposition to the modern concept in her reflection of the society approach for women's education. Leno is a studious student and she wants to pursue her degree, but she is not allowed to pursue the degree just because she is a girl. Grandmother Vibhuna has strong thoughts about the fact that girls do not need education and does not help them in any way to make their vital goal, that of becoming a good Naga wife and mother. The grandmother states, in our day, girls did not go to school. We stayed at home and learnt all the field work as well. The gender segregation and the rights of Angami men as constant women are depicted all throughout the novel. Being a patrilineal society, Angamis follow an inheritance system where the property is passed on to the male heir of the household. Grandmother Vigno, obsessed with traditional practice, not only showers her greatest love and affection to her grandsons, but also assesses her property to them. Even though Lino lives with her, does all the work for her, and cares her, she is not inheriting anything from the matriarch. The term feminism became popular after the 20th century struggles for gender equality, securing women's suffrage and voting rights.
Yes, ma'am. Continue, ma'am. Yeah. Or it's over.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In this novel, Kite captures the traditions, culture, and beliefs and lifestyle of the people of Naga community. Kite states Eleanor's disapproval against her grandmother is indirectly a protest against the patriarchal society. To conclude, the paper underscores that women living in a violent zones build up a community feeling and rise to stand against violence and injustice. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. You spoke about what are the constraints that women are facing even in the modern world, and especially yeah, though we say men and women are equal, still there are in many places in the society women are being treated as a secondary citizen. Still it is happening. There are many families doesn't allow women to go for higher education, and these are the difficulties being a woman many children face. So as the writer tries to explore it and try to buy through her writing, she tries to uh, bring a hope to the, at least to the next generation, and we hope that through her writing many of our community women would come out, isn't it, ma'am? Don't you think?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. As nowadays we are having people like Malaya, they have stood for their.
Yeah.
So if we emerge, we could achieve what we want. That is what the writer too states here, and she project the protagonist in that way too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. It was a very good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Jolyn Cheryl, Madam, for presenting on the paper Question of Existence Among Young Adults with reference to John Green, the yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
mm,
Can you hear me, ma'am?
yes,
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 ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, yes, ma'am. I can. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. My paper topic is the question of existence among young adults with reference to John Green's The Fault in Our Stars, a study. Young adult fiction focuses on the age group 12 to 18. The characters will also among the age 12 to 18. The major themes in this young adult fiction are friendship, love, identity crisis, etc. This young adult fiction serves as a bridge between adulthood and childhood. Uh, this uh, this period, this young adult period, is a transition period from childhood to the adulthood. This novels kind of prepares them to the adulthood. And speaking of my paper, uh, it is about existentialism, and in this, death cannot be avoided. That impact of death depends upon the perspectives in which it is approached. It is the perspective of each individual which creates the meaning of their own existence. Existentialism means existence of individuals, and it gives the meaning of their existence. Existentialism is the way individuals approach or live their life. The true essence of life is depends upon how each person's life is lived. And the question of existence from the characters of the novel's perspectives are: Augustus, the protagonist of the novel, believes that he has to do something extraordinary for the world to remember him. But Hazel uh, Hazel thinks that only if her parents live their life happily, uh, then the purpose of her life is served. She thinks like that. But at the end of the novel, they both conclude that the way life is lived is the meaning of their existence. And the emotional turmoil of young adults has more to do with what their name will be, or what happens to them in their afterlife than their present. Perspective on which death is approached differs from each characters of the novel. Hazel fears that their parents might break, and their family will be broken if after her death. And Augustus fears that he might fade into oblivion, that after his death, no one will be there to remember his name, or say about him to the future generation, and there won't be a purpose of their life. But as their relationship progress, and as towards the end of the novel, they both realize that true meaning of existence is the way they live their life. Uh, by focusing on present and focusing on their present life, uh, they understood that the true meaning of life is their soul living purpose of living. The way they live their life explains who they are, and that name is carried down to their future generation. And to conclude this, the answer for this existence is how one live their life, and how they treat their life, or how they value their life when they are living, rather than thinking about the future, and how they will be treated after their death. They have to live their life at the present. And another major important thing is, if the loved ones remember their names, that is enough. No, it doesn't need for the world to remember their name, or for them to be popular, or for them to be hold a particular place. If the loved one remembers their name, that is more than enough. Name to be engraved on history is not really necessary. And if the loved ones remember them and carry their name forward, that is more than enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. It was a Very nice presentation. You spoke on existentialism theory, which was more famous in the during the after the Second World War, and especially the theory talks about how man merely exists in this world.
Yes, ma'am.
Especially, and when we talk about this particular paper, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and
Yes,
we
ma'am.
all fear that there might be a third world
Yes,
war.
ma'am.
This paper was really connected with the
Yes,
situation, and
ma'am.
you have presented it well, and you brought that essence of existentialism in the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, next, I would like to invite Karunya, who is a research scholar, and speak on the topic of a victim of violence, especially about the life of Dalit women. Yes, ma'am, please. Hello, are you there? Okay, madam.
Yes, ma'am, I'm
Please.
there, but I
Yes.
couldn't share my the screen I'm sharing.
Okay. Try it up, or else you just sum up your
Yeah,
what do
yeah,
you-
yeah.
argument. Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm sorry that I couldn't share my PPT, ma'am.
Just no problem. You just talk about your topic, and the text, which especially you're going to talk about the violence, isn't it? Violence
Yes, ma'am.
against
Yes.
the Dalit women, and how they are being
Oppressed.
targeted,
Yes, yes,
and
ma'am.
how do they really suffer? You can just sum it up.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, good evening, everyone. And I'm here to present you with the title "Victim of Violence from Dalit Women." The background is majority of Dalit women are poor, landless, and wage laborers. Till to the date, they are suffering from caste, class, and gender discriminations too. The purpose of this study is the term Dalit is still in the practice to abolish the prevailing inequality. So many Dalit writers are emerged to present the scenario to concentrate on the issues of triple oppressions, that is, class, caste, and the gender discriminations faced by the Dalit women, and to flash that they can break free of the oppressions to highlight the physical struggles and the reactions of the society of Dalit women. And next, here comes the introduction and phases of triple marginalization. That is, Dalit women autobiography is portrays their pains and agonies as well as their betrayal and their resolutions. Dalit women writes about oppressions not only from the caste system but also from the Dalit men's too. Their autobiographies portrays their restricted childhood, unhappy marriage, and their quest for freedoms, their inhuman treatments as an objects, and their heroisms, quest for identities, their lives by oppressions, and so on. So here, exclusively, Dalit women face triple marginalizations. Next, Baby Campbell, the first Dalit woman to write her autobiographies. We all would know that Baby Campbell's novel, The Prison We Broke, it it faces two problems. That one is first the oppression and exploitation of Dalit by upper caste. The second comes descriptions and discriminations towards women in the society. Next comes Sivagami's novel, The Grip of Change of Dalit Literature. And the Sivagami's first book, we would know that she written in Tamil in 1989 with the title Palayana Kadidalum. And it was translated in English in 2006 with the title The Grip of the Change. And in this novel, being a woman, it highlights the triple marginalization, that is caste, class, and the gender of Dalit women on the basis of class, caste, and gender. Next comes, it also deals with the major concerns of the novel in The Grip of the Change. It also deals with Gauri's, the character Gauri struggles towards self empowerment. And next, the next chapter is social control. They face a social Dalit women faces social controls. That is two major social groups. One is ruling class and the subject class. Where comes ruling class exploits the subject class and they oppresses the subject class. So subject class people so not they do not raise their voices. So we need a voice for the voiceless peoples. and the Spivak subaltern, according to Spivak
Can the
subaltern.
subaltern speak? Yeah, right. We're talking about Gayatri Spivak's. Can the subaltern speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Subaltern, we all would know that subaltern theory is not just for oppressed, for others. This, it also voice out for peace. They need peace for the pies. The people who are not in the peace also can apply the subaltern theory. That is the main concept of this theory. And here in this paper, I would highlighted the subaltern theory in caste-based society. People are still suffering in the caste systems in this today's scenario. Earlier discriminations on the basis of caste and gender were prevalent. Dalits were not allowed to enter even in temples, tea shops, schools, and even upper caste settlements. Even they do not have rights to walk in road where upper caste people lives there. And this is really the painful thing. And next here comes Sudagami's amplified that here Savagami is voice out for her what for her freedom. And what she says is the poor social, economic, and political conditions of the Dalit hardly allows them to think about the metaphysical problems. Even they face the metaphysical problems, and through and they call and here Prasad that one criticism, and he says that Dalit in universities, it's quite true to Dalit wherever they do, and do not have any particular god to worship, even do not have a god to worship. If they went to the temple, they couldn't worship as a god. And next, here comes gender victimization. And again, the Baby Campbell and P. Sivagamis, they are strong Dalit feminisms. They become a milestone in the Dalit feminism by projecting the Dalit women in their writings. So among them, they reached wishes to explore how Dalit women are handled in the societies through Sivagami's novel The Grip of the Chain. Victims would be the mostly on women, how the society is practice inequality will create divisions among the individuals. So victims or suffers may be any genders, race, class, age groups, etc. But because of the involvement, the society victims would be the mostly on women, not men, and mostly on women. So Dalit women here, she see how Dalit women are portrayed. They are portrayed as an instrument to be enjoyed or entertainment or joy of men of the caste, as well as the men of the upper caste also. So here this is the crime. The men and the women of the different castes can fall in love, but when the society punish them, in only punishes the women, not the men. So here also the discrimination schemes, and victimized and exploited on the
Excuse me,
hand.
Dan. Can you think about the time constraint and can you conclude
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
conclude, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the delay. And here, by concluding, another one topic is there, contemporary issues. The contemporary issues is voice for the distress. Dalit women are wrongly portrayed as a victim. They are not a victim. They are wrongly portrayed as a victim. Dalit women is they are Dalit woman is a Dalit among us Dalit. This is a strong phrase. Dalit woman is a Dalit among us Dalit. So it is painful. The Dalit woman is really isolated even in Dalit community as a woman. So being subjected to the generation of dehumanizations, the agonies and traumas of oppressed, the struggles of the existence. By concluding, I would say in a single phrase that Dalit women should rise their oppressions and marginalizations through their writings, that education is a weapon or instrument to raise their voice for the voiceless. So
Yes.
thank you and sorry for the delay, ma'am.
No problem. Actually, this is a very right phrase. Even I was thinking the same. Voice for the voiceless. Many
And
writers should come forward, and they should give
their voice for
the people who
citizens.
are being treated as they've been this, especially the Dalit women. As you said it, they were really. They face triple oppression, especially when you
Yes.
think of this in the present day scenario. Many are educated, and we all know that everyone is equal and common in this world, but still this discrimination still exists. It is really pathetic,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
especially and very soon I think they should be eradicated from the
Yes, ma'am.
society, and many writers, especially
Should
women,
overcome,
should,
should come
yeah.
forward for writing their problems.
Yeah.
Only then we can rectify it, and the public can analyze it.
Yes, yeah, analyze it, and definitely they will also realize the people who are discriminating others in the name of caste, they should also realize. Thank you,
Subjugation.
Ma. It was
Yes,
a very
ma'am.
good
Thank you,
presentation.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to invite Mr. Ria Chowdhury from lovely professional University Punjab to present on the topic psychological capital among adults in literary review. Please.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone who are present here, and the judges and panel members also. So, today I am here to present my topic about psychological capital among the adults and students. Just give me a second. I am just uploading my PPT.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I would like, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, madam. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope my screen is visible. So first of all, I will start with the explanation of my variables like psychological capital and the adult sense. So psychological capital is a very confusing terms. It is made up of four another terms, that is hope, resilience, self-efficacy, and optimism. But in simple words, if I can say, it is just a positive psychological state of mind that is developed by any individual. Like in today's scenario, everyone is very much stressed and worried, and right now we are suffering from COVID also from last 2 years. So the depression and the anxiety is increased among the people and the individuals. The life of the human becomes miserable and nothing is stable in our lives nowadays. So in this changing scenario, it is very much important to manage the human resources appropriately. There are many factors in the human life that affect humans, but if we see, then if we concentrate on the psychological factors, then they can improve the life of a human. So that's why I would start with a simple definition of the psychological capital, that it is the positive psychological state of mind that is developed by any individual. This term was firstly coined by Martin Selman in 1999. He said that the person with high psychological capital believes that she can control the future. Here, controlling the future doesn't mean that we can really control the future. Here, it means that we can control the occurrence of the events that are going to occur in our future life. So they are always ready to take the responsibility of his or her actions. What like I was, if I am doing something, that I am responsible for myself. It increases the chances of an individual to become more successful in life. So if I go through the dimensions, there are four dimensions, that is self-efficacy, optimism, uh, resilience, hope. Just a second, ma'am. Okay, it's moving. So there are four terms, and if I go through the terms, the self-efficacy is basically means how much efficient I am, how much able I am to put on something on my task, how much I can how much I am confident that I can do that particular task. So it refers to having a confidence to take on and put in necessary efforts to succeed at challenging tasks. Next term is optimism, that refers to the individual's ability to make a positive attribution and expectations about succeeding now and in future. Optimism is particularly related to our future. Resilience, as the term itself explains, that resilience is something that is ability to sustain or bounce back when we besets with the problems. When we face some problems, then when we bounce back from these problems, that is basically resilience, when we sustain ourselves. Hope refers to an individual's ability to preserve towards the goals and redirect the path of the goal in order to succeed. If I go through the terms optimism and hope, so numerous times we are very much confused between those both the terms, that is hope and optimism. Hope and optimism are the terms that are often used in place of one another, but if we originally sees them, then they are different from each other. They are like the two sides of the same coin. As the Bryant and Vegas said in 2005, that optimism had a greater impact on the positive reappraisal, while hope has a greater impact overall on self efficacy. If I said in the simple terms, then hope is more focused on a person's personal achievement or specific goals, while optimism is related to the projected quality of the future events. Next, psychological cap. If we, I measure the psychological capital here with the scale that is given by Freud, Luthans, Bruce J. Evolio, and James B. in 2007. So we measured the psychological capital by different tools, but the most famous and reliable tool that is widely used is PCQ, and it has in all 24 items in that, and 6 items for its for its each dimension, or I can say for its each pillar, that is self-efficacy, hope, resilience, and optimism. It also has a smaller version which includes only 12 questions, so we can use any of them, but I used the with 24 questions. Now I come to my second variable, that is adolescence. So adolescents are seen to be the most problematic creature on in the world, but adolescents are not the problematic creatures. They are just the beings which are learning to act and live like an adult, and at the same time they are dealing with their childhood wishes. So they have both the components in them. That's why they are bit of frustrated and irritated, because they are not the complete adult and they are not complete children. As Mihalia says, that adolescence is a transitional phase of growth and development between childhood and adulthood. So adolescents adolescents are very much sensitive, and this age is the very much sensitive, as it was also given by many of the scientists, and the scientists that worked on adolescents the more is E.B. Hurlock. Now I go to the review, some of the reviews which will prove that psychological capital affects the adolescents, and not only one dimension but each of the dimensions. Psychological capital touches each of the dimension of the face of the adolescents, whether it is well-being, whether it is stress, whether it is depression, or their academic achievement. So as Riolo, Sekwi, and Zosef in 2012, they found that psychological capital not only affect adults, but it also affects the human beings of all the ages. Next, Afzal Malik and Attai in 2014 found that negative emotions dampen the relationship between the dimensions of psychological capital and well-being, while positive emotion strengthen this relationship. Liu Zhao and Tian in 2015 found that psychological capital is positively linked with the school adjustment aspects, and it also adversely connected with unpleasant life experiences. If someone facing unpleasant something in life, then it get adversely affected. That means our positive mindset get affected adversely by that, and it is positively linked with the school adjustment, and it helps us in adjusting in school with in various circumstances. Karmakar in 2016 found that adolescents who believe their parents are authoritarian have lower level of positive psychap and its dimension, whereas those who believe their parents are authoritative have greater level of positive psychap and its dimension. So the parenting style also affects the psychological capital of the adolescents, and it also affects the parenting style. Next is Ohomashi, Ahmadi, and Abbasi Saheli in
Ma'am, can you
2016.
just go on to the next, slide, ma'am? Because
Yeah, ma'am,
yeah,
it will be covered in 10 minutes itself. It's just a small
okay,
presentation.
yeah,
Yeah, it will be covered in 10
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Okay. So this says that psychological capital rises, the likelihood of the criminalities decreases. Means if we focus on psychological capital, we are able to decrease the criminality in the students and the criminal mindset of the students. Also, Hattie and Salvona in 2019 investigated that there is the that the students whose academic that the academic psyche of the students controlled by the relationship of the teacher and the student. So the relationship of teacher and student also affected by this. So by this we can conclude that All these things are controlled by the psychological capital, means each and every factor of the life of the student can be controlled by the psychological capital. How can we develop this psychological capital? So in order to develop the psychological capital, there are various treatment that can be proved itself effective. Psychological capital development encourages positive thinking patterns that can question and replace long held assumptions and belief. If we are superstitious and there are long held assumptions about that, then they can be replaced by the help of the psychological capital. For developing psychological capital, goal setting, pathway formation, mental rehearsal, goal pursuits, multiple produce paths, contingency planning, and these kind of things can be used for the development. Approach oriented goals should be there, should be prioritized above the avoidance oriented objectives, and goals that are specific and quantifiable as well as periodic milestones are recommended. Means we have to set a small milestones to achieve something big. So these kind of things we can develop in our students for the development of psychological capital. In overall, and to conclude all that, I can say that before dealing with any problem that is concerning with the students or concerning with the adult sense, with their performance or with their behavior, there is very much important to know and to understand the relationship of psychological capital with that behavior, whether it is their academic achievement, whether it is stress, whether it is well-being, or anything that is related to their behavior, their psychological mindset. It is very much important to know about the relationship with the psychological capital, because we can deal the problem very easily if we know that how it is related to that. Because if it is related positively, then there is different method to deal with that. If it is related negatively, then there is a different method to deal with that. Significant positive relation was also found between the academic achievement and psychological capital. So if we want to increase the academic achievement of the student, then it is very much needed to increase their positive psychological capital. In one of the study, it is also said that by increasing psychological capital component and emotional strength of the people, crime commitment can be reduced. So adolescent is a stage where students develop these kind of thoughts. So if we are able to develop or increase the psychological capital component among them, so we can reduce these criminal thoughts or bullying or ragging, these kinds of thing in the students. Stress of academic achievement is the most common symptom of among the adolescents in today's scenario, which can get easily worsened due to the expectation of parents, teachers, society, and as well as due to the rising competition. So in such situations also, for coping with these situations, positive psychological capital is an important variable. And at the end, for the recommendations, so as we see that the boys have like less academic achievements, as one of the educationists proved that the boys have the less academic achievement than girls. So boys must be encouraged and motivated and must be guided to achieve more through the help of the psychological capital. Counselors also assist adults and students so that they can have a more clear view about the objectives and the choices they want to achieve. Higher education institutions curricula should incorporate treatment that are aimed at increasing students' psychological capital, which is directly or indirectly linked with their academic achievement. Although academic administrator have a very little influence over the students, but how they can intervene in that, they will use such resources which can improve their psychological capital, or they can just include such resources in the curriculum or in the school, so that the psychological capital among the students can be increased. That's all from my side, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. You spoke on a very different topic. What is psychological capital and what is adolescence, and what is the difference between children and adolescent, and how it helps, especially when they have a psychological capital, how it makes them better focused on their aim and life. Thank you, ma'am. It was a very good presentation. To
Thank
conclude
you,
the
ma'am.
session, I would like to say congratulations to all the presenters, especially the presenters from spoke from the history of the terracotta temple. What are the factors that affects the students, especially their writing skills and multicultural perspective, gender equality, question of existence, especially violence against Dalit women and psychological effect as the topic goes on, like literature and education and social issues. This session to cover all the topic, and it was a very happy moment for me to chair this session. And once again, I thank Mohammed Satak College for giving me this great opportunity, and also a special thanks to Department of English and my friend Professor Mr. Bose, Bhuvanendra Bose for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank
Kindly
you.
produce.
Yes. Yes, thank you, sir. And I think we can.
yes, ma'am.
I think they can proceed with the next session, right, sir? Bose, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us.